Well, we kept hearing these stories that the DEA was slowing down its cases, and a lot of cases that were being made out in the field against these companies were going nowhere, and they were hitting a brick wall in D.C. So we started putting together a list of people who were working in the field, who had either were current DEA investigators or who had retired recently, and we just began cold calling them at home, calling their cell phones, sending emails, calling people across the country. And we soon began to connect with people who were very, very upset. These people work for something called a Division of Diversion Control at the DEA, which is, again, something that Lenny and I had never heard of before. I've been a reporter for almost 30 years, and I never even knew that this division existed. And it's a group of really dedicated men and women who do nothing but regulate the pharmaceutical industry and make sure that pharmaceuticals do not spill onto the streets. And so these men and women were deeply frustrated because they were making cases against these companies to try to stop the flow of drugs, and these cases were getting stalled at headquarters. They couldn't understand why, and people in these communities were dying left and right, and they were the ones who were on the front lines. So, moms and dads and grandparents and brothers and sisters were coming to them and saying, "What are you guys doing to stop this epidemic?" And they were saying, "Look, we're doing the best we can." So that was the first thing that we did, is we documented this slowdown of cases at the DEA in the face of what we later found out to be intense pressure from Capitol Hill and from the pharmaceutical industry.
How does 60 Minutes get involved?
So we are blessed to be working with these guys. They're fantastic reporters. But I think all of this begins with the fact that people have to trust each other. And I've had a relationship with Jeff Lean, who's a fantastic investigative editor here. We did a story with John Solomon when he was a reporter here on bullet-lead technology in FBI lab, and it resulted in a number of people getting freed from jail, the lab changing their analysis of things. So we had a really great experience to build on. And Jeff and I had stayed in touch over the years, and we talked about how, what could we do, what would be the right story to do. And then it ultimately ended up with Marty Barron and Jeff Fager, who's the executive producer of 60 Minutes, having one phone call. And this was the first story that I think Marty or Jeff had brought up in the call. And Fager said, "That's what we got to do." I was like, let's hear what else they got. And no, he said, "No, this is what we got to do." And so
how did your team know? What was it about the story?
Oh, it was when you have 200,000 people dying in the United States, and still many people are still unaware of the scope of this. That's a big story. And as I joked with my friends here, is you don't have 200,000 people dying without leaving a paper trail. And that's sort of the way I kind of approached it. And what was so wonderful about this collaboration is that each one of us brought a different talent. It's kind of like bringing 3 chefs into a restaurant who each have different skill sets. So we were able to share sources, we were able to share kind of editorial approaches, we stole lines from each other's story. And it was really, and we trusted each other. They looked at our copy, we looked at their copy, provided suggestions both ways, and it was really a true collaboration. I mean, these guys had done a fantastic story in October 2016. Unfortunately, it dropped a couple weeks right before the presidential election, so it was buried. Nobody really noticed it. With the approach to the new bill, it gave it a new impetus to take a second look at the story.